Allison and Karen Dahlman coming at you again in February 2016.
I can't believe it's already February. Where did January go, Marla? It's like,
gosh, and it's
gone.
tax time coming up. I'm saving my little squirrel nuts to pay the tax man. But
I'm doing the same.
we're calling in abundance. Oh, hey, you guys, so we're going to talk about channeling today, but speaking of, because I just brought up taxes and abundance, I was reading this book before I came on. It's treatment. It's a treatment book. You know, how to treat for things that it's like prayer. And there's a treatment for prosperity. And this, people can do this and say this and with their candle or meditation. God is my unfailing, permanent, and perfect supply. I do not work for a living. I work for the glory of God and the good of my fellow man. There is no lack, no limitation. God's mind is perfect. God's mind and its perfect ideas sustain me in all ways. I live in abundance, I rejoice in plenty, and I am prosperous in all my ways. God money is mine to use for good, and I use it now with pleasure and wisdom. Isn't that great?
That's nice. Allow it to fall right into your lap. Come on in. Prosperity, abundance. And that doesn't just mean money. It means like great relationships and good ideas coming to you and a wonderful career and lovely people and all that stuff. So let's bring it all in.
Yeah, bring it all in, because I do have some friends that have struggled a lot lately with abundance. So I just want to send that out and know that, abundance is also, like you said, creative ideas, because that creative idea could bring you, your next paycheck or some windfall or an additional income. And speaking of calling it in, we both had a wonderful experience in January. There's a channel called Paul Selig who wrote, well, he didn't write it. He channeled 4 books. The first one is I Am the Word. And then look at all these books. I mean, there's the book of Knowing and Worth, the book of Love and Creation, and the book of Mastery, and there's 2 more books to come. These guides channel through Paul, and I'm going to put the link below to the my hat's coming off, to the interview that I did with Paul. I got the interview with Paul Selig. I was so thrilled. He's such an awesome guy, and I interviewed him for my show, so I'll put the link below. But we want to talk to you about what kinds of channels there are. And you went down in San Diego early January, and I just went this past weekend up in LA. Wasn't it amazing?
Yeah, it was amazing. Yeah, Paul Selig's really good. And, there's so many different types of ways to channel and different kinds of channels. I'm sure you all have heard of them and you have your favorites. And we highly recommend you check out Paul, too. Check them all out. You don't really want to get stuck in one way. Always be open to, what resonates with you. But truly, it's the message. I don't worry so much how it's coming through or where it's coming, how they're channeling. But it's the fact I like the message. If the message makes me feel uplifted, positive, heartfelt, good in my space, and I'm going to listen to the message. But there's types of channeling, and Paul is more of a conscious channeler. But there's also channelers who are trance mediums channelers, and what that means is they actually are unconscious when they channel, and that's a different type of channeling. You go into a real deep altered state where you don't remember what's being said. So there's extreme. That's an extreme, and the other one, conscious, is where you just repeat the words, is an extreme. And somewhere in the middle, there's those other channelers that channel. But there's different ways to channel, Marla, aren't there?
And Paul, what's so interesting is because he's here, he can even have a conversation with the guides. He's channeling, and then he says something. Oh, yeah, they said, yeah. To watch it is fantastic. And then the guides actually taught the workshop. So, if you go to paulselig.com, you'll see what kind of workshops he has and what happens in them. And they're really transformative. And those guides bring through the most amazing information. And like Karen said, like my husband, he doesn't believe that people are really channeling, but he likes the message. So he said the message is the most important. So however, whatever you think about it, I think these incredible messages coming through people in these times are just fantastic. And and we went and saw Bashar together last year, a few months ago, Karen and I, and he brings through an extraterrestrial, which is from his future. It's like his soul, it's his future self, right? So there's all sorts of things. And then Esther Hicks, who channels, but she's looking right at people. Paul he'll close his eyes or open them. You can see there's a lot of videos of him on YouTube. And then Daryl closes his eyes.
Yeah, they all do it different ways. Now, another way that people channel is through a Ouija board or through an automatic writer, which is a planchette. You put a pin in it. There's a Ouija board. I have one back here if you can see it. Yeah. So that's also a form of channeling. We're obviously conscious when we use the board, and automatic writing, most people are conscious too, and they let the pencil write or the keyboard type. Their fingers are on it, and you feel a pressure or movement to allow that to happen, as you do with the planchette. So that is also channeling. There's so many different forms and levels of channeling. Again, if you get involved in this or you watch this or experience it, really go to the message. Look at that. How does the message make you feel? I think a lot of people will often get caught up in, so here's Bashar talking about an alien he's channeling. I would just dismiss that for a moment and hear the message. Or Marla's using a Ouija board. That must be evil. Ooh. I would say, again, what's the message she's getting? How could that be evil if it's so loving and beautiful?
So you guys, I got a message from my angel Mirth this morning. I said it in another video, but I'll repeat it. So this is an example. So I got on with Karen this morning, I had about 8 minutes before I had to get on with her, and I thought, you know what? It's Valentine's month and everything. Let me just see what my angel Mirth has to say. I got on the board. She spelled out a fantastic message. She says, "Love is divine and angelic. Rest assured that the angels love you, and you must be vigilant in loving yourself. Many blessings, dear ones, and many angel kisses. Mirth signing off from the 7th dimension, XOXO." So my angel Mirth's very loving, and I get a lot of wonderful messages from her. But that's just an example, and I'm conscious, but I can kind of hear what's coming up next. It's interesting because it's my own voice, but I kind of know, and I'm hoping to get off the board. Karen and I both want to get off our boards and channels.
Yeah, the board can be a crutch because it can limit you how people don't want to listen always to your message because of the board. But also then you're relying on using a tool. Now, there's nothing wrong with the tool because automatic writers are great too, and the keyboard's great, and a planchette's fabulous. It's just, how do you want to do it? So yeah, Marla and I are moving in other directions, which is fine, but we still love our Ouija.
Exactly. And I still don't even have a real Ouija board because Ouija's a trademark, a brand.
That's right.
And so for people who it was only made, quickly tell the story of Ouija, how it when it was called Ouija, because for years and years before that it was witch board, spirit board, talking board, and it only became Ouija when William Fuld Patterson. Well,
yeah, it was actually in 1890 when they created the Ouija board as we know it today. In 1891, it got patented. Before that, there's rumors of a board called the Witch Board that one of the presidents got for his marriage to this young woman, and that was probably about 6 years earlier. But there truly wasn't a board as a Ouija board. People think it goes back to China. It does not go back to China and Greece. The board as we know today does not, but the idea of divination and using stones or bones or some kind of alphabet in pointing to it, that goes back many, many, many thousands of years. But yeah, so the Ouija board that we know is a trade name like Kleenex, and it's who owns the name now is Hasbro, actually. So it was William Fuld, Parker Brothers, and now it's Hasbro.
And it was a parlor game. It was used all the time, and it only got demonized in the 70s with the Exorcist movie. But this is interesting. We forgot to mention, so Jane Roberts, who channeled the Seth material, one of the most famous channelers of our time, met Seth on the Ouija board, didn't she?
Yeah. She started the Ouija board, and so did Betty White. Betty White was a channeler, not the famous Betty White as a movie star. There was a Betty White in the early 1900s, and she started with the Ouija board at a party. They were using the board after dinner. They called her over, and she sat down at the board, and it worked really well. Then the board told her to pick up a pen and start writing. So she did the Ouija board for a few months, and then she moved on to a pen, and then she moved on to doing channeling like we talked about earlier, the regular conscious channeling. So yeah, a lot of people start with the Ouija board.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned Esther Hicks did, but she doesn't mention it.
Yeah.
That's a little known fact.
Her husband brought it home. Jerry brought it home. He was into the Ouija board and used it quite often. And she said, "Get that out of here." But, she tried it. She used it, but she didn't really like it. But her husband, Jerry, did. And there's a video online on YouTube. You search for it, Jerry and Esther, and type in Ouija, and you'll probably find it. And you'll learn about that she used the board herself.
And you said the man who developed the Alcoholics Anonymous program also was told to do that through the Ouija board.
That's right, Bill Wilson. That's right. And James Merrill, a famous poet who won all kinds of awards for his writing, used the board and channeled it verbatim. So there's even more. There's more and more.
But we want to say also before we close out that the board is just a piece of cardboard or a piece of wood. I can also write letters on a piece of paper, use my finger, or use anything. I could write it in the sand, and so it's the board is not evil. Demons don't come out of the board. Some people become afraid. It's just a tool, and it's our intention, our energy, our thoughts, and what we're trying to do that causes the communication, not a board. So don't be afraid of it.
That's right.
All right. We love you guys, and happy February, month of love. Bye.
That's right. Bye.